Welcome to Trojan News. My name is Margaret Xue, and I'm pleased to welcome Jeff Bond, a graduate from 1999. And I just wanted to interview today. What are you doing now?
Well, I'm a podcast host and a producer, and I do event production for businesses to help them better connect with their stakeholders, like their employees, their customers, their vendor partners, and bringing human connection into the workplace.
That's awesome. Yeah. So I see here that you are the co-founder and CEO of Chat with Leaders Media. Can you explain more about what that is?
Yeah, so in 2020, I started a leadership podcast. I had always been in sales and professional services my entire career, but it was COVID, if you remember then, and I had nothing better to do, so I started a leadership podcast with some other guys that I knew, and through that, I was making great connections with executive leaders and thought leaders in Atlanta, where I live, and all over the world. Right. And while I was working for another company, I was realizing that, okay, I was finding customers and opportunities to bring in new business for this company I work for. We did custom software development. And through that experience, I then realized that, hey, there's a business model to this, that if I helped other businesses use interview-based podcasts as a means to create authentic human connection with the people you most want to know, that you're essentially reverse engineering the process, the outcome that you most want to see. And so I learned to love the art of storytelling and connection and interview-based podcasts as a B2B tool.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. What would you say that helped you inspire this Chat with Leaders Media?
Yeah, so after I started to think that I was onto something with this podcast and this business model, this agency model, I started to voice that to my friends and say, hey, I've got this idea. I have this entrepreneurial kind of mindset going in me right now. And a friend of mine who was running his own podcast turned me onto a book called Content-Based Networking. And it was written by a guy in Orlando named James Carberry, who had started about a $10 million podcast agency at the time. And that was geared towards serving B2B companies, mainly in technology and software, with these as services, podcasting as a service and as a strategy. And so when I read that, it kind of gave me the language, and it's, I really want to do what he's doing, but I want to gear that towards businesses that use their platform as a force for good in the world. So I had a different target market, similar business model, and I just took the leap of faith to say, hey, it's COVID, I got nothing to lose, let me start my own business, and prayed for about 2 months that I would find my first client, and I did, then my second and third, and then the business has evolved over the last 4 years. So. It was really great, and entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart because it's hard, but it really has become my passion in life, and using that as a platform to create human connection.
Yeah, that's amazing. How did I see that you developed this people-first approach. Can you explain more on that?
Yeah, so my purpose in life is to help people feel more connected to their creator, to their purpose in life, to the places where they work, their vocations. So serving others in that way to help them feel that sense of connectedness in the world meant a lot. And in order to do that, I feel like you need to create spaces for people to share their stories, to bear witness to them like you're doing for me today as an interviewer, and to really honor the stories that are shared. And through that, you learn so much about the people that you work with. And so, you know, putting people first in your business, or putting people first in your life, in your communities, and bearing witness and asking questions and being curious and interested about them, you know, creates stronger relationships. And relationships are the lifeblood of business. It's the lifeblood of our lives. You know, you hear the word networking all the time, and once you have a network of influence, you're able to kind of grow your career. But in order to do that, you have to found that on relationships. So people first is always putting the stories of people, recognizing and celebrating their accomplishments, and making sure that you kind of decenter yourself around life. Like, you're certainly important, but you know, making sure that you acknowledge, recognize, and uplift the people around you will really help to dramatically increase your joy, first of all, but also the way in which you connect with others and the way that you get things done together.
Yes, indeed, indeed. So do you think coming from Wissahickon High School, it can help you with that inspiration or that purpose of wanting to really connect people, give them purpose?
I do.
Yeah.
I really do. You know, when I was here, I wish I spent more time in this media room. This is incredible what you get to do and the tools you get to play with and the people you get to collaborate with. I was a sports guy when I was here. I played basketball and baseball, and that's where I spent the majority of my time. And, you know, I ended up being a captain of both teams by my senior year, and really connecting the team and having a shared mission and a common goal and a desire to win, and you know, but also the loss, you know, and the disappointments that you have together. It's so emblematic of the way you go through life. And so those were formative years for me, and having coaches like Tim Stokes and Spinella for basketball, Kyle Wilson, who's also getting inducted into the Hall of Fame this year, and then having the teammates around me, I think was so formative. And I went on to play a little baseball in college before I transferred to the University of Georgia. But that sports experience for me, and also just the community that was formed with friends and teachers and people like here at Wissahickon, you know, as I look back and I reflect on that, that was incredibly important to shape the perspective I have today.
Right, yeah. It's amazing. So I believe that you actually have a podcast called Capitalism Done Right.
Yeah.
What would you say? Is that like a philosophy of yours? What would you talk about that?
Yeah. So I've produced over a dozen podcasts with my team. I have other producers on the team and editors.
Yeah.
That's one of the many podcasts that we do. And I love business because it is such a platform for elevating humanity. And that's the mission of Conscious Capitalism, which is the movement that I'm part of, that was started by John Mackey, the Whole Foods founder, and a business and marketing professor named Raj Sisodia, who, after many years of teaching business to students, was like, there's got to be a better way than just the extractive capitalism and, you know, using people as cogs on the wheel and not necessarily as human beings. But what is it about these companies like Whole Foods at the time that made all its customers and employees such loyal and raving fans of their business? So they wrote a book after the study called Conscious Capitalism. And it boiled down to 4 tenets, which was having a higher purpose in your business, having a stakeholder, not just shareholder mindset, you know, caring about your employees, your customers, their families, the environment, your community, and how interdependent all of those are. Also having conscious leadership. You know, the consciousness of a company can't outpace that of the leader. The leader has to be bought in to that style of leadership. And then having a conscious culture, you know, making that embedded within that. And so Capitalism Done Right was a podcast that I produced with the host Soyini Koch to explore how business leaders are putting that into practice today, but also how that's showing up in their financial results. That it's not just like an ideal that we would love for all businesses to have a heart for, but this actually is a better way to do business, that conscious businesses outpace the S&P in the marketplace, and that their long-term financial performance is outsized while having this stakeholder mindset.
That is true. That is true. For this, how would you define human-centric leadership? Why do you think that's important, at least today?
Yeah, I think it's really important because leaders these days are, especially CEOs, they get kind of put into a position of being a mercenary leader that's there. They're paid a lot of money to make sure that their board and their investors or shareholders get outsized returns. And they should do that. You know, shareholders in a business are incredibly important to fueling the growth and the opportunities it creates for people through business. But when you forget about the human aspect of business, and that there's all these employees and stakeholders around you that are depending on the business for their livelihood, and all of a sudden, you know, culture erodes because it's just extractionary and they don't feel a sense of connectedness to the business, then that's not good for the sustainability of the business. It's not going to be around for long. In fact, some of the companies that have been around today that are the top performing haven't been around very long, probably less than a decade.
Wow.
And companies that used to be the biggest companies back in the early parts of my lifetime and even yours aren't even around anymore. And so you got to look at this as a long-term business strategy with human-centered leadership. And that goes for any institution, right?
Yeah.
So any community, whether it's your religious institutions, whether it's your community, your homeowners association, or your friend group, having a human-centric approach to bearing witness to other people creates better outcomes, and it creates more joy in our lives, that we feel more connected to others in ways that are more meaningful than just transactions or profitability alone.
That is very nice.
Yeah.
I see that you also were on the board of Conscious Capitalism Atlanta.
Yes.
What brought you to Atlanta exactly?
Yeah. So Atlanta, I went to go to University of Georgia.
Right.
I transferred there in 2002 to pursue a degree in public relations and advertising, and then just started my life, and eventually met my wife, and I have 3 kids down in Atlanta, so that's what keeps me down there. So it's nice to visit home, but that is my new home, away from home, as they say.
Very sweet to hear.
And but I would say that as I look back on that migration to the South, and I look at Atlanta where I'm at today, it's a very civically minded community. It was birthed out of the civil rights movement, and so a lot of the expectation of being a business leader in Atlanta is that you're engaged in the community aspect, that you're creating a more inclusive and welcoming and hospitable place. And I think Philly has a lot going for it too, in terms of business for good, and welcoming people into the city, and having diverse perspectives and heritage and background and business ideas, and have that be towards the flourishing of humanity. So I love markets like Atlanta and Philly that have these thriving business communities that are all making the future better, the future that we would most want to see.
Right, yeah. So would you say, growing up, you did say you did play baseball and basketball.
Yeah.
So do you have any maybe childhood memories that maybe fueled your purpose in wanting to do business and connect with those around you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think growing up and playing sports and the community that I had around me, the friends, I always valued my time here in high school as not necessarily part of a certain group or clique, as they say in high school. I always tried my best, as I look back, and I think I was pretty intentional about this then, of being as inclusive of all groups as possible, and being able to adapt myself to all those groups versus being exclusive and excluding people. And I think that's really important in life, because if you're around a diverse set of people, you never want people to feel like an outsider. And for me, as a 6'3" white guy named Jeff, that is a pretty privileged position for me to be in, right? And so that level of privilege isn't necessarily available to all people. And so, having a diversity of friends, having a diversity of perspectives makes life more enriching, but I also think that it just helps to elevate humanity and the people around you at large, because we all deserve the sense of agency and connectedness that we were born to experience. God gave us all that gift, and I want that gift to emanate through me if I'm going to be a reflection of Him in the world as His image bearer.
That's amazing. Would you say that you had any certain obstacles or conflicts that came about when you were starting up your career?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, throughout my career, I was always in sales, and I made a couple transitions here or there. I worked in technology startups. I worked in the staffing field. I've worked in a lot of different professions. It's mainly been marketing, advertising, customer acquisition, retention, but all professional services to other businesses. And through that, there's always this desire to grow. Okay, so you want to grow in your leadership and your pay, your title, your responsibility, but at the same time, you may be growing a family, which I did. I have 3 kids at home, and I'm married, and there comes a time where you realize that all this striving for growth and accomplishment in my life sometimes comes at the expense of the attention you put on the people right around you. And so I started to feel that tension right before COVID, actually, in 2019, where I was, and I still struggle with this a little bit, to be honest, but like writing emails right next to my kids, laptop is in front of me, I'm on my phone, they're trying to have a conversation with me, I'm distracted. And that's a real problem in today's world with the devices that we hold in our hands and not being able to just be present with somebody in the moment, especially your family and your kids that count on you. And so that to me was kind of a big wake-up call. And I remember hearing a leadership podcast by a guy named Andy Stanley in Atlanta, who's a mega church pastor, really relatable. But he said that your only unique leadership role that you will ever hold in your life is to be a present biological parent to your kids. Nobody else can do that role for you. And that was a real wake-up call for me. And at that time, I kind of stepped down from a leadership role that I was in at a company I was at and moved into more of an individual contributor role, did a lot of soul searching. And you know, even as I'm growing my business today, I didn't have that whole aspiration to grow a business. The idea came to me later, about a year and a half or a little bit longer. You know, I still struggle with that tension, and I try to find myself when I'm getting too immersed in that of how can I delegate more? How can I include other people in the projects that I'm working on? Give them the opportunity to learn and to develop and to work on things. And so I've learned that, you know, inviting people to be part of your process and not allowing your pride of ownership of the thing that you're working on to get in the way of your relationships or the opportunity you're giving to people is really important. So including people, building teams around you, giving people opportunities, and being present, bearing witness to the people around you, because they're all going through stuff. They're either, you know, experiencing immense joy that you want to celebrate with them, that shared success, you know, or they're going through some hard times, you know, and you want to show them compassion and you want to be with them. But if you're not paying attention, if you're distracted by the devices in front of us, then you'll never have the opportunity to do that. So I would say that's a little bit tied to personal and professional, but that was kind of a big wake-up call for me.
Yeah, for sure. Very inspirational. You mentioned family. So when growing up, when you presented this idea to them, would you say that we're very supportive of your idea?
Yeah, you know, it's funny because my dad was always very successful in insurance, and he's a great leader. A lot of the wisdom that I have today was from him. My mom was, she stayed at home, and she, you know, was always there for everything that we did. Every activity, every game, she just always showed up, and very blessed to have that kind of upbringing. And then my sisters too. They've gone. My one sister's a teacher here locally.
Oh, wow.
And then my other sister is in the reinsurance field and is successful as a vice president. And I'm just so proud of the work that they're doing. But nobody really went down the entrepreneurial path but me. And it was kind of like in the middle of my life. I was kind of an accidental entrepreneur, never really planned on it. And so when you first do that, I think everyone around you that knows you and loves you and wants you to be safe and provided for, they're like, well, can you make money doing that? And are you gonna like be okay? What's this idea that you have? And so see, a little bit of it is a leap of faith, and you do have to center yourself around people that have been there, done that to some degree. Like you have to meet with other entrepreneurs and people that have grown and, you know, exited businesses or failed in business and sharing those stories. And the more you can, you know, build an advisory board around you that can advise you both in your personal, professional lives, that's really helpful to be able to work through all the obstacles and the uncertainty that you face when you're building something new. So they were all supportive and they believed in me and all that, but I think they were also to some degree saying, what is it you're doing? But it all worked out. Yeah,
it's amazing. Do you have a specific, would you say, memory that really helped your career grow, really boosted you?
Yeah. I think some of the early success I had in my 20s when I went into sales, I remember starting for a promotional products company. It was a Chinese-owned company, this wonderful couple that took great care of me. They brought me lunch every day, which, you know, for a young man, that's like the pathway to your heart, you know, is getting free lunch. Those were great 3 years, but at some point I just felt like I needed to grow out of that. I needed to generate some more income, and I interviewed at a marketing company, and I got an offer from them that was, pretty low in the grand scheme of things as I look back at it. And then I got this sales job, which was an even lower base salary, but it had this potential for commission. And I'm like, oh, I don't know about that. I don't know if I can go out and make commission, but I ended up going with the sales job because that owner believed in me, actually invited me to dinner with him and his wife, and convinced me that I should come there and that I'd be successful doing it. And by God, the first year I was, and it was just incredible. I made more money that year than I could have ever imagined at that age doing, and I did it by serving others and helping people with marketing. We did direct mail marketing, and that gave me a lot of confidence in my ability to serve and to help others achieve, in their business and their lives. And so I think I quickly realized that sales was a good career path for me. And that gave me the confidence boost that I needed. I don't think I've ever really reflected back on that as much as you just brought out of me, so thank you.
Well, I'm glad. Did you, when growing up, did you always imagine yourself to just becoming a leader?
No. I mean, I think leadership came somewhat naturally to me. As I mentioned, I was a captain for the baseball and the basketball team, but I always did that because I wanted to have kind of a common goal. I wanted to win. I was competitive, and I wanted to support the team around me, and so that kind of came naturally. But I don't think I really had a clear vision of what I wanted to do. When I was speaking with you earlier about your love for audio and film and all of that, that really, that's awesome because, at your age, I probably didn't have a lot of clarity over the things that I really loved to do as a vocation, as a job, as a career. And so having a little bit more clarity would have been helpful in my next steps because, I had a lot of great friends here and loved being at home. And, I think not everyone has a great high school experience. Mine, I thought it was great. And so I was kind of resistant to grow up at that age and to consider what my future would look like. But I think as time went on and as I, got into roles of formal leadership where I had teams and I would hire and I'd have firing responsibility and, stewardship over the team, that meant a lot to me. And I've studied leadership. That's why I started my own leadership podcast in 2020. I have a podcast now called The Steward Chair, where I bring in CEOs, presidents, and founders to interview them about what it took for them to lead a company for 10, 20, 30 plus years and the ups and downs, the lessons learned, and it's so fulfilling. And I get to learn from that all the time. I'm always learning. But I've really come to learn too that leadership doesn't need a fancy title. You're a leader. We're all leaders, right? We have people around us that look to us, and leadership is really just influence. And if you have any influence over around you, I just implore you to use that as a force for good. Because people need that. People need to be led. We also need to follow sometimes too, and to be led. So if you're a leader, it comes with a humility that we don't have it all figured out. We never will. But being ever curious throughout our whole lives about what we can learn to do differently or better, how we can be more open-minded towards difference, and difference, only makes us stronger if we can accept it. It's complex. And as you know, we live in a very divisive time right now. But it takes these types of things where we bear witness to one another, we have conversations, realizing we're hardwired for connection and community. And that brings us closer to our Creator and our intent. We were made for one another. And so leadership gives that opportunity to bring people together around that common reality of we're all human. And work and the things we're trying to accomplish, the striving. It's important to feel like we're all working together, but you can't lose the humanity in that.
Yeah, indeed. So going back to memory lane, is there a specific teacher or coach at Wissahickon you would say you would like to give a shout out or to help boost your idea?
Absolutely. Well, so many great teachers and coaches, and I mentioned two of the coaches before that I'll come back to, which was Tim Stokes, my baseball coach, who I think will be here at the Hall of Fame induction tonight, which will be amazing to see him. And Kyle Wilson is another one. And there are so many others, but he'll be here as well, and he's part of the slate of inductees this year. So quite an honor to do that with Kyle.
Yeah.
And they just both, really spent their time loving other people and making sure that we were supported, that we had tough love, that we had the skills that we needed. And so just really appreciate, both of them for their desire to serve the people around them in such, amazing ways. They're servant leaders, true and true.
Yeah.
Yep.
Amazing. For advice maybe to students if they were starting out, maybe just small enterprises or marketing, what would you say to them?
Yeah, so if they're interested in business and marketing, I would say that practice makes perfect, and don't let perfection get in the way of progress, or perfection is the enemy of progress, right? So sometimes you just have to go out there and create and not be afraid to make mistakes. Make sure you ask a ton of questions to people that have done it before you and be curious. Don't be afraid to say, I don't know. That's so important. Like, if you don't notice, don't just like stumble through it, and be curious about like self-teaching and learning and picking up new books, because when you leave school, the learning doesn't stop. I get to choose what I learned today, which is amazing. So, and it's so much easier today with the tools and the technology at our disposal to research, to learn how to, all of that stuff is really important. But I also think it's super important to realize that we are hardwired for connection and community, and that we need to get out from behind the screens, every once in a while, and put the phones down, put the laptops down, stop watching TV, go out and have a meal with people build a personal advisory board around you of people that are older than you, that have done things that you aspire to do someday. Be curious and ask great questions of them, because they'll tell you a lot of things, and they'll also see the spark in you. So when they see your curiosity, your intentionality, your passion, they're going to want to help you throughout your career, and they're going to want to make introductions to other people in their network that help you pursue that passion and get to that next step. You'll hear the phrase coined all the time, it's all about who you know. And you're never doing these things because you're aiming to get something out of them. But you do want to learn, and you do want to serve and find opportunities to just connect with people. It doesn't matter who they are, but it'll help you accomplish so much more when you build that community of influence, and that they see that you're very intentional. And I'd rather get somewhere in life on purpose than just by mistake. So start with the end in mind, things that you're passionate about. That may change, but once you know that, then it becomes about reverse engineering the relationships and the connections and asking great questions, and that'll help you get to where you want to go a lot faster than just kind of leaving it to chance.
It's amazing.
Well,
that is all my questions.
Great.
Is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I'd like to ask you a question.
Yeah.
If you don't mind.
I don't mind.
All right, so you're interested in audio and film. We're here in this media room. What year are you in school?
I'm a senior.
Okay, so you're a senior and you're going off to whatever the next step is. Like, and the world is kind of crazy today. And you're kind of uncertain about what that future looks like. So, what are you thinking about right now, and what like concerns and fears and all that do you have as you're going to that next step?
Some fears. I think for me, artificial intelligence is a bit of a concern, and how we need to, the fact that a lot of students and adults need to question, like, is it okay to go into this field? Is artificial intelligence going to take over, or is it going to help aid my career and boost me forward? For me, it is very controversial. There has been talks about just AI in the field of film and the entertainment industry, and it can get very complicated, but I do hope for the best and see that we can really regulate and promote human creativity rather than just AI. So I do believe that we can get through it just through regulation and maybe just even movements, because it can be a concerning issue. It gets to a point, and we don't know in the next 10 years how advanced artificial intelligence can be.
Right.
So, but I really hope for the best. There already has been laws. For example, California, I believe they made a law to not allow AI to place any actors of that sort recently. And but I do have hope, and I see for my career in sound, or at least I hope for my career in sound, that really that I hear that AI can maybe help and aid my career.
Yeah.
But really, time will tell.
Time will tell.
Time
yeah.
will tell.
I love your curiosity and fear on that. I just had an interview recently with the CEO of Trilith Studios, which is the biggest studio outside of Hollywood down in Atlanta, Georgia, where they filmed Superman and all of the Marvel movies. And the film industry is thriving in Atlanta. You know, it's all definitely under attack with AI, and you know, they're looking for the best tax incentives. A lot of that's moving to the UK right now. But we talked a lot about kind of the relationship between AI and technology and humanity, and they have built kind of a purpose-built space down there. It's like a whole community. It's magnificent, where creators can thrive. But it's the relationship that you have with AI that allows us to do new and creative things, not in replacement of, but to really boost and elevate the work that we do. But the concerns are real. I think we all have them about AI. I think there's a lot of functions that AI does that has essentially replaced or enhanced some of the things that we do as podcast creators, as event producers and content strategists. And I would say from my perspective so far, it's been a net positive, because what it's done is it's allowed us to serve and elevate the work that we do. But it also has enabled us to connect more with one another as colleagues, with our clients, with the stakeholders we serve, the people that are consuming the content, or more so engaging the content, so that we're truly building community through what we're doing. And I think for creatives, as we move into this brave new world of AI, because it is such a pivotal time that we're in, it's going to allow us to really find the joy in what we're doing and produce really amazing content. But we have to really double down on the humanity aspect of things.
That is very true. Well, yes, that is all I actually have for us today. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Bond. Yes, so this is Trojan News, and is there anything you'd like to add?
Just be kind to one another. Really important.
Thank you so much for joining us today. This is Trojan News. We will catch you next time.